Hello, today I'm going to talk about my game design for Archipelago. I came up with this 5 years ago. It's the most innovative design I've ever had, but I can't build it, so I'm giving it away for free. What is Archipelago? It's a civilization style MMO, and its main innovation claim is that unlike other civilization games where they just have units and cities and they approximate numbers, in this game there are actual people and they have advanced AIs and they're living out full lives. They get hungry, they get sleepy, they get tired, they have to eat, they have to find fresh water, they socialize with each other, they fight, they even start businesses. But basically, these are advanced AIs for every individual person in the civilization. So the computing power just to run this game with that many advanced AIs would be monumental. The civilizations are totally customizable. Even the people are. When you start out the game, you pick what attributes you want your people to have for your starting island. And you have like 50 points in mental and physical abilities that you can distribute accordingly to what you want. Do you want your people to be taller? Do you want them to be stronger? Do you want them to be more agile? Do you want them to be smarter? And in what way? Do you want them to have better memory, better deductive reasoning, better spatial analysis? You create the attributes of your people, but you can't have everything. You have a certain number of points and you have to pick and choose. Now the appearance of your characters are totally customizable. You can give them green skin, red hair, and blue eyes if you want. And as you play the game and you conquer and merge with other civilizations, these AIs are actually having babies. So when they mate with people from other civilizations, then they kind of cross the initial look that you created for your citizens. Diet is even reflected in your civilization. When you start the game, you might, for example, only have pineapples and tuna on your little island. And so the game will even reflect the nutritional value that pineapples and tuna would bring to a civilization if they ate nothing but that. This is the only game that you can play from a civilization perspective or an RPG perspective. Civilization games are all top down. You're always going through menus and clicking buttons and different things like that to adjust the way your civilization manages itself. And we've definitely got that in the game. In fact, that's the primary way of doing things. But since it's a real world and every citizen is an AI, you can actually go in there as a character yourself if you just want to play around RPG style, and your role would be the king of whatever that civilization is. So in the beginning of the game, you could go play as the king, beat up a bunch of other civilizations, and conquer that way. Now as the game goes on, you're going to have to learn these civilization features because your civilization will just be so big that whatever the king does doesn't matter much. This game could really attract RPG players to play civilization style games for the first time. The game runs 24/7, and you'll probably have to create your own servers just to facilitate that. But basically, it's a real world. Everyone's living real lives, even if they're just AIs. And you have other players in other civilizations on the same map, just on different islands. And so, the only way to make it fair and to make it work, since this isn't turn-based, for the multiplayer to work, the civilizations have to just be running 24/7. Now, no one can stay logged in 24/7. So the principles of command are a little different. I mean, these are AIs and they think for themselves. So they can kind of manage a little on their own, they can kind of fight a little bit on their own, but they work better when you're managing them. However, once you leave them with commands, they keep following them. So if you leave really good commands, even if a war happens while you're at work or something and you can't play, your troops will still be able to fight it off fairly effectively. The command interface is more doctrinal than hard commands. You can actually select general tendencies for your troops to follow. For example, you could say units should be about 10 people long, and they should be patrolling on the perimeter of our capital. And if they're attacked by an enemy, they should stop and fight, and they should send a runner to X area to get reinforcements from another group of troops. That's just one example. You could have commands for your boats, and it would be like, we generally keep 30% of our force categorized in this small island because that's the most likely to be attacked, and we want 10% of our force over here, and we want them patrolling 100 meters outside the island. And they'll tentatively do that. However, once they actually get attacked, they start making their own decisions. They're not the best at making their own decisions, but they won't just sit there and do nothing because they don't have a command. They'll modify the situation to what's going on, just as troops do in real life. Units are totally customizable. You decide what they wear, clothes, armor, etc., what weapons they have. Now, you can't just choose them. You have to be able to build those weapons based on the resources that you've already acquired. You decide what vehicles they're going to have. There are a lot of different boat designs. You can download ones if you don't want to be creative, or you can design your own ones, and they'll actually have a system to assess how seaworthy they would be and what their maneuvering capabilities are. And so you can set up the numbers of troops you want to have in a unit, big or small. Honestly, the units themselves are just completely 100% customizable. The game has a level system, and the reason for that is mostly so that people don't beat up on noobs too much. And the way the level system works is, generally speaking, there's a huge map, and there are a lot of different civilizations on it. They have their starting island, and then there are a few islands with nothing on them that are scattered about that can be conquered by whoever gets there first. And then after that, they're usually fighting each other to conquer land that's already been civilized. And we don't want the brand new players to just get beat over and over again because they're going to get discouraged. So basically the way it works is you grow your civilization, and when your civilization grows to a certain level of power, then the auto system kind of surrounds your entire civilization. So whatever your group of islands that you've already colonized are shaped like, it just takes that chunk or section of the map and pulls it out of the map. And then it goes to a new map that is, say, level 2, and it'll all have players who leveled up from the first map. And when they implant your civilization, it'll have a weird shape. So whatever area is left over, they'll auto-generate some islands that you need, preferably with resources that you don't already have. And then if you go back to the map before that, there's going to be an empty space. Well, that empty space just gets filled by some blank islands, or maybe a new player who just joined the game. The level system is designed to keep it fair because you can only get so much more powerful than the people around you before you level up. And as far as how many levels there will be, the game's just going to keep adding levels as civilizations rise in more power. So it could be 20, it could be 50, it could be 100, it could just keep going. That's what the level system does. Another purpose of the level system is that it serves as kind of a save point for your game. Whenever it takes your civilization out of one map, it saves your civilization at that exact moment in time with that exact power, with those exact characters. And so let's say you go to the new map and you really struggle and you wind up getting completely conquered. Maybe you didn't log on for 5 days, and when you get back on, you're like, oh no, my civilization is wiped out. Well, that doesn't mean the game is over. All that means is you're on level 2, and they have the save from level 1, for example, and you can just reinsert that into the map and play from that point forward. So every time you level up, it's basically a save point. The game has a good and evil system built into the game. When you make good decisions, your citizens become good people, and good citizens generally work together towards the greater good all the time. When you make evil decisions, your citizens become more evil, and they have a tendency to become more self-centered and have more infighting, and it takes more and more complex systems to get them to work together as a team. Also, the game doesn't tell anyone what decisions are good and evil. Like, the metadata does a lot of calculations on whether you did a good or evil decision. But the game doesn't say this is evil. You just have to figure that out on your own. For example, genocide and slavery are options in the game. If you choose them, they're obviously evil, but the game won't tell you that. And then it has consequences, like, say, the citizens you entrusted to run the slaves. Well, they turn really evil, really fast. And then they go out and they interact with the rest of that civilization, and they slowly start becoming more evil. The more evil your civilization becomes, the more it just starts to implode on itself. No one will work together, everyone's screwing each other over. Everything you try to do just gets more and more costly due to the evil tendencies of your people. Now, you can reform your people, and there are a number of options in the game that create reform over time. And it can take a while for that to happen. And if you don't want to do reform and you have a lot of money, the game basically has added components that you can purchase. So a rich guy who wants to have a really evil civilization, it's going to keep getting more and more costly, but then he can just pay money for special features to keep it going. And I guess power generally comes faster if you just make good decisions, because the game's set up to favor good decisions. However, every map's going to need an antagonist, so the players who choose to be evil and pay for these add-ons so that they can even survive will just be the civilizations who need to be conquered in progressive levels of the game. We'll probably have 2 civilizations that are just run by the company as barometers so we can adjust the rest of our metadata. Like, we might hire a priest who's good at civilization games to play one, and since he's making the most good decisions, we'll set it up so that his principles are designed to win. And then we'll have another employee who does nothing but make an evil civilization, and he'll decide, we'll base that on what hamstrings evil behavior will add to your civilization, and then he'll also be creating the features that people buy if for some reason they want to keep an evil civilization alive. Technological advancement will come slow, but it will be in the game, and typically it's kind of segmented from level to level as you move forward. You start in almost prehistory, hunter-gatherer society with nothing but like spears and clubs. And you slowly gain more technology. You want to keep it so that you're in a historical concept for hundreds of levels of the game. But technology does slowly come. You can research it, you can buy it, or you can steal it from other players. And you'll get things like metallurgy so that you can upgrade to having swords and more complex components for building your boats. And we'll probably have it cap off at whatever the last level is with like aircraft carriers and stuff. Like I said in the beginning, I'm giving this game away for free to anyone who wants all or part of these ideas because I can't build them myself. To make this game, you probably need about $1 billion of initial investment for the development. You would need to build your own servers just to facilitate the game, and they'd have to be very powerful ones since they're running millions of AIs all the time. And you'd probably need at least 500 employees to pull it off. It's something I can't build, so I'm giving it away for free. And I've got dozens of really advanced, innovative concepts that I can't build. So I'm going to give them away for free, one new game design a week, until I run out of game designs that I've already made. Now, why am I doing this? I'm working on a new principle in the game industry called goodwill. Now, everyone is concerned about people stealing your idea. There's competition in the game industry. There are a lot of non-disclosure agreements. Most people are very, very hardwired to guard their idea. And that's when I initially came up with this idea. I bull-guarded it for 5 years. But then I thought, what's the point of that? Why not share creativity to anyone who can use it? Sort of a principle of open source design. If you can't build it, just give it away. Now, there's one game I'm working on now that I can build. It's called Cadetland. It's relatively simple, and I can build it. So that's what I'm working on. And the only game design I have that I don't want stolen is Cadetland. Now, being such a small company, if competitors really wanted to steal Cadetland, they could. And instead of being paranoid about it, I'm just going to work off of the good faith principle, which is that I give tons of great ideas away to the industry for free. And what I think is going to happen is when I've declared that there's one idea that I'm actually working on right now called Cadetland, and that's my game, that the rest of the game industry will just respect that and not try to steal my game. Well, thank you for watching another episode of SS Street Fighter. Please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to join the Street Fighter Army. Also, please support me on Patreon. The link to my Patreon is in the description below. I want to give a special thank you to my first supporter on Patreon, my stepdad, and the legendary world champion skydiver, Charles Brown, for being my first supporter. Thank you to him.